Welcome to Avenidas, where we provide tools for positive aging. It's my pleasure today to introduce Palo and who will introduce the speakers that are going to lead us in a discussion of this important topic. And now let me introduce Paula Wolfson.
Thank you. It's not important that you see me, just that you hear me. So today is an important day. This has been a vision in my mind for really almost since I started this job. I'm a geriatric social worker for a few years. I started in 1980. And within the last year or two, more people have come into my office to talk about issues related to driver safety than in the previous number of years. I've checked in with other colleagues, doctors, the DMV, and everyone is saying the same thing, that this topic is coming up over and over and over again. People come in my office to talk about relocation, finances, sibling issues, family issues, and at some point they say, I don't know what to do because I think they possibly should not be driving anymore. It's not clear, and it becomes part of the conversation. And usually I stop whatever else we're talking about, and we talk about that first because that's a high risk. And in social work, what we address first is high risk behavior. On July 4th, I met some of the first responders in Palo Alto, the paramedics, and we agreed to partner and have forums on issues related to aging. We didn't know where we would go with it, but it was a dialogue that we began. And then on July 31st, I found myself at the University Cafe with the first responders in response to the accident. Now, they were in our building at the time of the accident. Someone from the cafe came into our building, they saw the trucks, and everyone went running over, and so did some of our staff. So that journey has culminated in all of you being here today. We titled the forum, Shifting Gears, When to Stop Driving and How to Move Forward, and left it kind of an open-ended question, because that's a question everyone needs to ask themselves within their own circle of friends or family. I have no answer for anybody in this situation related to your particular circumstance. I would have to hear the story in a private consult. But what we're trying to do today is just talk about talking. We have plenty of resources on the table and on your chairs about driver safety courses, mediation, the DMV policies, and we have representatives from different agencies to talk about different aspects of this conversation. What we're going to do is quickly go through the presentations and then really open this up to a dialogue for you to ask questions. And I'm going to ask that you are respectful of each other and respect each other's privacy and confidentiality after we leave the building. We will be passing a mic around. We'll be holding it for you if you do have a question, and we will moderate that. So first I want to introduce Elizabeth Edgerly from the Alzheimer's Association, who's going to start us off with a video.
So what I wanted to do was kind of set the stage, and I realized for some of you here today, dementia is not necessarily something that you're dealing with, and if you are not dealing with that, you're very lucky to not have to deal with that, because so many of us are. For me, it's my mother, who still has her driver's license, and honestly really shouldn't be driving. The good news is she hasn't used it for a very long time, but it feels good to have it. And some of you might relate to that actually there's some value in that alone. But it is, just as Paula was saying a moment ago, it's something that at the Alzheimer's Association, we have this conversation every day, multiple times a day, with the person who's been diagnosed and is trying to figure out what they need to do around their driving, to their caregivers and their family members who are struggling with that delicate balance between safety and independence. And that is such a heart-wrenching thing for people to go through. And with any of us, if you currently drive, if someone says, okay, you're not going to be able to drive tomorrow, how would you feel about that? Most of us, from the age of 16 or whenever we got that license, we plan to have that for as long as we possibly could. And so I think we recognize that this is a very personal, and for many people, a real challenging situation, because no one wants to hurt other people, and yet we also want to have that independence. So I just want to clarify some things around California law that you may not know. California is the only state in the country that requires physicians to report a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia essentially to the DMV for evaluation. I did not know that. I thought other states did it, but they do not. It is only in California. But what it means is that it needs to be looked at. What it doesn't mean is that you're not allowed to drive. And we have many examples of people in the very early stages of Alzheimer's who are driving, and they've been evaluated and they're reevaluated, and they're doing so successfully until the day when they say, and many of them do say, you know, that felt like a little close call, or I didn't feel comfortable with that, I should not do this. And we've worked with hundreds of people through that process. I mentioned Barbara maybe has as well. So what do we look at? And we'll be talking about this. You know, do you have transportation? We need transportation. Even in the Bay Area, where we are lucky, where we have some avenues, it's still a challenge. But that independence is so important to us. And caregivers may have a different perspective. Sometimes it's the caregiver who really wants the person to keep driving. Because how are they going to get to where they're going if their loved one isn't driving? Or perhaps they're afraid. Many times we have families ask about, well, what's the liability? What happens if my mom gets in an accident in Maine and I know she shouldn't be driving, but she has her license? Am I liable? Is she liable? Is the assisted living where she's living liable? Probably. If you have a good attorney, you know, it wouldn't be hard to prove that. And then, of course, we want to remain and retain our dignity through this process. Just because I may not be able to drive or have chosen not to drive doesn't mean there's anything lesser about that. The challenge, and I'm really interested in Rosemary talking about the DMV Ombudsman program, is there's some variations from location to location. Some people we see, they get their driver's license taken away right away. And others get it renewed for 5 years. We're trying to figure out, how did that happen? So we'll be talking about that today, I'm sure, because neither of these scenarios is really what we're looking for. We want a careful assessment to make sure that it's safe. As I mentioned, in California, it's mandatory reporting, but not everybody does it. So not all physicians are reporting. And when a physician does report, they are supposed to be protected from liability. They are not protected if they don't report. So if there's a physician who's diagnosed someone you know, or you as having Alzheimer's or dementia, and they did not report it, and you get in an accident, it could very likely come back to them. And then Rosemary's going to talk a bit about the DMV driver safety offices located throughout California and the Ombudsman program. What it means really is that you need to be examined. They need to test you, just like they did when you first got your license, just to make sure you're doing okay. And it needs to be in person, so they can get a look at you. And they want to assess knowledge, and then the competency, of course, to drive. And they do a special driving test. And I'm going to show you now a little video. This was not done in the state of California, and I'm curious, Rosemary, as you see it, if you think it's similar to what they do in California. In this instance, it's a woman who's having a driving test, and this was from HBO. HBO did a series on Alzheimer's, and in this instance, it was a mother and her daughter went to the DMV, and the mom had just gone through the driving test, the written driving test, and now she's going on the road for her driving test. She has early stage Alzheimer's. She does not have advanced Alzheimer's. But I want you to pay attention to how she does in the driving test and whether you think she's having any issues with it as she goes along.
We'll get in the front seat here. Oh! Get in the front seat. There we go. So what we want to do is we want to back out and go to our left when you feel like it's safe.
What is reverse? 3 is...
So we want to use the reverse, which would be what? Which would indicate reverse on that?
No, that's not 1. Maybe 2 is reverse. You're going to have to tell me.
The R stands for reverse.
Okay. R is reverse and N is in neutral.
Correct. Now, I understand this is a different car for you, so that's why we're warming up in the parking lot here.
Now, where am I going?
And we'll follow Leland here until I ask you to make a turn. You want to stay in the right lane here. Make this next right turn coming up. And we don't want to make sure we don't go into any oncoming traffic here. We want to stay behind the cars. Can I ask you why you're stopping here? Can I ask you why you did that?
Wasn't
It's
there a
not
stop
stop on
sign?
the gas. No, there was no stop sign there.
It was some red up there.
So,
Stop sign was for another road.
it wasn't for the road that we were traveling on. It was for a different road. Next traffic signal we come to, we'll be making a right turn. It's Big Bend Road. And we'll be making a right turn at this traffic signal. So however you can safely get us, if we have to go past it, we can.
You told me a right turn,
A right turn, correct.
and I passed it.
That's okay. We can get us turned around and we'll go back and then we'll make a left turn.
This place, I mean, so many closed off places, I guess I... Residents only, I can't go up there. Dead end. Town. Oh, shoot. Now, I'm trying to decide, should I go up there and turn around? But I guess I'll do it like this. This is the hardest thing I have to do today.
All right. Now let me ask you, do you think she passed? No. You hope not. You're right, she didn't pass. And when she got back to the office, though, she was devastated to hear that news. And her daughter was with her, and her daughter said something like, "Mama, it's okay. I'm going to take you anywhere you need to go. I'm here for you." And she said, "Honey, it is not the same." And she's right. And yet, as we watch this, we probably all agree this did not go well, right? And her written test didn't go well either. So that's one scenario. Someone taking a driving test, it doesn't go well, she did lose her license. I'll give you another example of a gentleman who we work with. His name is Mike. He's been very active as a person with Alzheimer's, and he was actually the chief of police in Lafayette for many years, and he developed Alzheimer's in his 50s. And Mike talked to us about how hard it was that he lost his license immediately, and he challenged it. He said, "You know what? I'm a cop. I pull people over all the time for driving, and I am a good driver, and I'm good at recognizing good drivers." And his wife might have thought, I don't know if you're still good at recognizing it, but his argument was, "I've not had any tickets, I've not had any accidents, I haven't had anything. Don't I get a chance?" And the answer is yes. And he took the test and he passed. And it was renewed for, I believe, 1 year. I think he took it the next year and he passed again, but he gave it up voluntarily because he started feeling uncomfortable. And I use him as an example that it is not all what we just saw. It is also the scenario of a person who says, "Let's see. If I pass, I pass. If I don't, I don't." and then they go from there. So just wanted to start with some examples that we see every day, that there's no one set answer like Paula said, and there's a process. There's a process for arguing your case to say, I don't think this was fair. And there's a process for testing and all of that. So that's my little part here.
Okay, so while you are thinking about that, we're going to take a pause and do something a little unusual here. We're going to pay tribute to a few people who have proactively stopped driving. And they do this out of a sense of civic commitment, ethics, personal values, and moral responsibility for being a member of the community. I put a call out in the Palo Alto Weekly and among professional colleagues and among home care agencies to say, do you know people who have proactively stopped driving? They didn't need to, but they sensed they were starting to change, and out of concern for really all of us, they stopped. Because I think this transition needs to be reframed and not just thought of as a moment of loss, but as a moment of elder wisdom, that these people are looking up for loved ones, children, families, and making a very wise decision. And there's so many moments of loss as we age, but sometimes we need to reframe that loss and see the humanity in it. So I privately, in my heart, call this the bar mitzvah moment. For those of you who know what a bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah is, when a young person, it's a coming of age ritual, and that's when they step up to the plate and say, I am a moral member of this society and I'm accepting that responsibility as an adult. Well, we make those choices lifelong, and this is just one of them. I also would like to take the drama out of this moment, and has my personal mission in doing this with Avenidas and all of you is to start the dialogue. This does not have to be such a tension-filled moment in one's life. If everybody agrees, we start talking about it, and maybe we start talking about it early. So right now I want to introduce professional colleague Betsy Collin from Allegra Home Care Agency, and she's going to tell you a little story about her clients, 92-year-old Bill Freeman and his wife Louise, who they were going to be here today, but they did not feel well. So their daughters are here. And their daughters are going to tell you their story about how they had this conversation.
Are in different stages of giving up their licenses or having given up licenses, and our caregivers are their wheels. And one of those clients, actually, I do have a funny story to tell. On my way over here, I was actually hit. So on University Avenue, and the person hit me, and then I pulled forward, and then she hit me again. And so I got out of the car and I said, did you realize that you hit me? And she said, no, I only thought I hit you once. I almost said, we're having this event. Go to it. So, but Paul and I were talking about this, and I thought about one of our clients, well actually there's two clients, they're married, who had this conversation with their daughters, and kind of the struggle. I talked to both Bill and Louise about this, and also their children, and kind of the struggle of what that is to give up your license and have to depend on other people to take you around. So maybe, are you guys comfortable in telling the story? Okay, so.
Okay, we didn't want to be in the car when he was driving, and then we thought this is not right to the rest of the world. He could hit someone. So we talked about it amongst ourselves, and then we sat down, in particular with my father. It was a very hard thing to do because he was a bit stubborn. But we sat him down, we told him we didn't want him driving anymore, and finally what we did was we made it so it was really difficult for them to drive. And the way we did that was to fill up every day with someone who was there to drive them. And by doing that, they just got used to not driving. And then it was easier for them to stop entirely. So I think you have to have something in place to replace it with. Otherwise it's unrealistic or actually painful, even more painful. So that was what my sister Toby and I in particular, we go by twice a week, and we have caregivers as well, and then my two other sisters also go by. So, Toby, do you have anything else you want to add to this story?
Well, his license expired.
Oh, well, his license was going to expire in a few months anyway, but it was so disquieting that we just felt it was irresponsible of us to even allow it to continue on. So, that's what we did.
Thank
You
you.
know?
Told the story, and it's actually in the PA Palo Alto Weekly from the first week in October in the Living Well section. Their mother just went to the DMV one day and just walked up to the window and said, here's my license, I'm giving it up now, and just did that very proactively. So thank you. The reason I'm doing this is if you know people in your life who have done this, maybe you should honor them at a dinner, at your house of worship, in some way for doing this step, rather than it being such a quiet, painful process. You know, you can flip it and create your own ceremony. And I want to acknowledge for a moment a colleague of mine, Peggy Simon from Stanford, Aging an Adult, because when I first started working here, we talked about actually this issue, and I jokingly said I would like to honor a senior for doing this, and she said, oh, like a car mitzvah. And I said, you nailed it. So it's really her term. Okay, so now I want to ask the panelists to come take your seats, because we're going to, we have a group of experts here in different fields, and they're going to each introduce themselves and then tell you a little bit about what they do, and then we're going to just open it up to a conversation and you can ask your questions.
My name is Sam Gonkowski. I'm a neuropsychologist. I work for Home Care Assistance, which is a home care agency. It's international, actually. There's offices all over the country, but the headquarters are here, and there's lots of offices around the Bay Area. I joined Home Care Assistance almost 3 years ago. I came out to develop a non-pharmacological intervention program for people with cognitive deficits, primarily dementia. So non-pharmacological meaning not medications. The medications for dementia aren't entirely effective. They do make a modest difference for some people, but a lot of people don't benefit from that. There's new research out there in the area of neuroscience and neuroplasticity that says people can engage in different types of activities to maintain brain health. So cognitive exercises, physical exercises, social stimulation, sensory stimulation, managing stress, having fun, recreation. So I put this program together with a team of professionals for home care assistance, and basically we help people try to improve their cognitive functioning if they have Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease with associated dementia or something else. We try to slow the decline. Those kinds of diseases are considered what's called chronic and progressive. So they're long-term and they get worse gradually over time. Our program is designed to slow that decline and even delay onset of new symptoms in areas of the brain that haven't been affected yet. So that's me, that's what I do. I met Paula through my position. I've come over and done some support groups for her, and we've interacted on cases, so that's what I do. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jack Hamilton, and I'm really pleased to be here today and look out and see just a lot of faces. Look like people who are here to learn some things that you need to learn, and you're curious and you're inquisitive, and that's what it's all about. I'm a mediator, and I've been in the field for over 20 years. And I would just like to share with you that mediation is a process that is very helpful to families where there are conflicts going on and disagreements, and it's a process that enables members of a family to be able to talk with one another in non-confrontational ways. And what we have found over the years in family mediations is that people come to the mediation table feeling that they're right, the other person is wrong, and I'm here to really convince that other person that I know what I'm doing and I've got the right story, and the other people don't know what they're talking about. So we find that when we work with families, I was very interested to hear your account with your father. In this case, when you have a father, an older father who's a driver, typically he's holding on for dear life. I mean, this has been something that has gotten me where I've gotten to today, and I just can't give it up. And what am I going to do to face myself and say, I'm no longer a driver? That is a really very difficult transition to make. But in a mediation process, people find that they can talk with one another in a respectful, non-blaming manner, and it creates an opportunity for the older person to begin to be a little bit more open to information, from other people, and to listen to daughters who are saying, we are really worried about you, Dad. We're not trying to get you to give up your car keys because we absolutely are the kings of the mountain here. We love you, and we want you to have the rest of your years in a comfortable manner and not getting into an accident, which could be just devastating, not only for you, but for other people. So mediation is a process that's available, and it works. About 90% of mediations result in resolution of the conflict and people walking out with agreements as to how they're going to communicate with one another when they leave. So I'll be interested to get your questions later on, but I think I'll pass the mic at this point.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Eric Nickel. I am the fire chief for the Palo Alto Fire Department. And before I start my remarks, I want to first thank you for allowing us to be part of this process. Normally, the only invitation that we get is a 911 emergency call, and there isn't an opportunity for us to prevent something from occurring in the future. I'd also like to introduce the operations chief, Deputy Chief Geo Blackshire. He's in the back here wearing the pink t-shirt. Chief Blackshire, it is Cancer Awareness Month, so we are out there. We love our t-shirts and our various t-shirts for the various month, but it is Cancer Awareness Month, and you'll see the firefighters periodically wearing pink t-shirts throughout the course of the month, and we're raising money for Bay Area Cancer Connections. So thank you for letting us be here. While I wasn't on the call on July 31st, I can just give you a real sense of what happened. We had a gentleman driver, was not a resident of Palo Alto, was up here to spend the day. It was busy lunch hour, I believe it was a Thursday. So you know how University Avenue can get during lunchtime. Lots of people sitting outside of University Cafe. He was trying to parallel park. I don't know how many of you have challenges parallel parking, even, young people have challenges parallel parking. He was trying to parallel park and thought he was stepping on the gas the brake when in fact he was stepping on the gas. And that is not uncommon. And while that was a very dramatic case that resulted in 6 people, being injured, and everybody's fine, everybody's released from hospital and everything, this happens a lot in Palo Alto. So I've been the fire chief here for almost 2 years. Now I usually listen to the radio when I'm in my office, and I can probably safely say in the last 2 years, one every 2 months maybe this is occurring. And it occurs in a couple different instances. It's when people are out and parking in a commercial area, and the story that we hear when the car is inside the building is, the harder I pushed the brake, the faster the car went. Or it occurs in neighborhoods where they're not familiar with. They're trying to navigate, they're thinking about other things, and we've got a vehicle into the house. So just a little bit of background in terms of demographics here in the community. Age 65 and over here in Palo Alto represent about 17% of the total population. It's about 50% of the people that we take to the hospital. And in the world of fire and emergency services, age 65 and over is considered a high risk for injury from fire or just sort of routine medical emergencies, let alone the chronic conditions. So this is already, and you know, this is already a higher risk group. And the position that we've tried to take within the fire department, we would much rather be part of the prevention than the response. So I'm really looking forward to these relationships that we're making here and the dialogue that we're having, because it sure is a lot easier and it's a lot less cost, not only in terms of financial cost, but emotional, traumatic cost, to prevent the injury from occurring, to reduce the risk than it is to have a bunch of firefighters show up and have a bunch of people injured and us having to take people to hospital and really, unfortunately, changing lives not for the better. So we're here to be part of the solution, and our desire is to be part of that solution proactively and not sort of reactively with lights and siren. So thank you.
And thank you for the invitation here today. My name's Rosemary Robles, and I am your senior driver ombudsman with the Department of Motor Vehicles. This program was initiated about 7 years ago after the tragic accident in Santa Monica. The Department of Transportation, CHP, and the DMV collaborated to make an effort in assisting senior drivers and their needs and issues. We're all living longer. We want to keep driving longer. Therefore, we need to give you options. As you were told from that video, first of all, you'd only be you and the examiner in the car in California, but at certain points, that would have been immediately stopped on that drive test. The drive test in California, when you're going through driver safety, is a 40-minute drive. It's not the 11 minutes when you got your license, because we want to see how you react to different traffic situations. We want to see if you can compensate for any physical or mental deficits, any vision deficits. Those are things that we look for. A lot of times, people refer themselves to DMV, and we'll do all the testing. When you sign that application to renew your license, you sign that you will submit to any test required by the department. Granted, a lot of people don't like us, but our goal is to make you feel different about us, and as the ombudsman, to let you know that I'm here to work with you and not against you. The department wants you to remain driving as long as you're safe to do so. But I will be the first one to say it's time to give it up. You won't need mediation with me, because it's going to be, I will explain why we're doing what we're doing. I will let you know we've exhausted all options that are available. I will review your file and see, okay, well, maybe if you take some driving lessons and brush up and get rid of your bad habits, you might improve. Okay, I'll give you another chance. But I'm going to give you a permit so you could practice so that you do succeed. But I don't want to give you a permit and then you tell me, oh, well, I only went out 2 or 3 times. No, I want you to feel like you were 16 or whenever you got your license first. You practiced, you studied, you prepared. That's what you need to do when you have to go through DMV again. Be prepared. You all have been driving for several years. You all have probably had 2 or 3 renewal by mails until you hit that big 7-0, and then you had to go in person to the DMV. So you have a license that was either 12 or 15 years old, And I know I don't look like I did 15 years ago, so we need to update your pictures. You're no longer orange. We now have a camera that gives you like life colors. Okay? So, in addition to that, I'm available by email, by telephone call. Unfortunately, there's only 4 of us in the whole state. Therefore, I'm out of the office 3 days a week giving presentations, but I'm in the office answering my calls and emails the other 2 days. But no matter when you call me, I'll get back to you, I promise. But remember, I'm off on Saturday and Sunday and holidays.
Rosemary, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for 4 years now, but I've been with the DMV for 30.
30 years. She's a true public servant.
I put together this little pamphlet, and it gives you a lot of information. As you were told, if we take your license away from you, you have a right to appeal that. In here, it gives you instructions what your appeal rights are. Nothing is forever. Things change. If you present us with new evidence, new medical information, we can reconsider it. I always tell people, if you're going to go for a drive test, I have booklets in the back that tell you what the criteria is, what we're looking for. Practice. When you go to practice, if you're married, don't go with your spouse. Because a lot of times, as we've been married for several years, we start to look alike. Well, we definitely start to drive alike. So if you're going down the road and you forget to look over your shoulder, well, honey, I don't do that either. You know, or you forgot to signal. So go out with your kids or your grandkids, somebody that's not with you all the time, that is really a safe driver, that you would value their critique. And always take it in a positive manner. Don't think that people are out to get you. Never think DMV says, okay, it's time. We want your money and we want the license. No. In fact, DMV gives you something for free. And that is a California identification card. If you're 65 or older, I recommend highly that you apply for that. It's good to have as a backup. It's a photo ID. If you travel, you can leave your license at home and take your ID card. If you lose it when you're on vacation or traveling, you come home, you still have a license. The ID card's good for 10 years. Your license is good for 5. But if you lose the license, you can go to the DMV, get a duplicate. You know you're going to get a piece of paper with a fuzzy picture on it. So now you have a hard copy picture to show with that piece of paper, because some places don't accept that. So it's free. And how many things does DMV give away free? Besides all of our handbooks and paper, but utilize it. And also it comes in handy, say you're not sickly now, but I've had a lot of people call me stating, well, my dad, his license expired 5 years ago. He hasn't been driving, now he's bedridden, but we need him to sign some papers and we don't have any identification. If you had an ID card, that would be valid for you to sign any type of papers with the notary public. So it comes in handy, and again, it's free. Okay, so I hopefully you have good questions for me, and if not, you can always call me or email me. Thank you.
We provide rides up and down the peninsula, everywhere from Grant Avenue in Mountain View all the way to Belmont. 5 days a week from 8:15 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll take you wherever it is you need to go. If it's to the doctor's, that's fine, but if you want to go to the hair salon, that's fine. If you want to go out to lunch with friends, if you want to go to the movie, whatever it is that you would have taken yourself to, we will take you to and pick you up and bring you back, or various other places, so long as it's legal. Now, we're not going to drive you to the bank when you're going to go rob it, But other than that, we'll take you any place that you need to go. Our drivers are all trained in working with individuals who may have mobility problems. If you need a shoulder to lean on when you're walking from your house to the car, we'll help you with that. If you need someone to assist you with buckling the seatbelt, we'll help you with that. We won't go inside any facility with you, but we'll take you right up to the door. And if you have any other questions for me, I'll be here on the panel. It's a fairly inexpensive service. It's a lot cheaper than owning your own car and a lot more convenient once you've made that determination that you're not going to be driving any longer.
Hi, I'm Barbara Kalt. I'm the director of the Rosemary House Adult Day Program in Menlo Park, your neighbor here. I want to thank Paula for putting this together and having this wonderful panel that I've been allowed to sit on. Thank you. It's very interesting, and I hope this is all very informative for you. In my job as director of the Rosemary House program, I am also involved with the Paratransit Coordinating Council in San Mateo County, and that is an organization that advocates for good paratransit service for people who can no longer use the regular bus route because they have a disability. Now, in order to qualify for paratransit, you cannot use the regular bus service by yourself independently. So for those people who need that service, it's an excellent service in Santa Clara County. The paratransit service is outreach, and it's part of the VTA system. I am here to offer information about public transit. How many of you have ever taken the bus? Oh, good. The bus. Now, this is really good. If you want to be totally independent on your own, just walk out the door, go to the bus stop, and you're on your own. The train, of course, is another wonderful option that we have here on the peninsula, and very, very convenient. So there are other transportation options. I've got a lot of information on the back tables. And since we're here in Palo Alto and Menlo Park kind of share this area so that people in Palo Alto can sometimes catch the Samtrans bus, which takes you all the way into San Francisco if you want to go that far. So there's this overlap between VTA and Samtrans here in Palo Alto and in Menlo Park, which is really good. And then, of course, there are the shuttles. Sometimes they work and sometimes they're not really too convenient. There's the Marguerite service, of course, in Palo Alto, which is a wonderful service too, and that's free. So if these things work for you, first you have to learn about them, though. That's the important thing. And there's a piece of paper on your chairs there with all the various transportation options. The first one there is called 511.org. Now you can either look that up on the website or you can call 511. Just dial 511 on your phone. And they will help you plan a trip wherever you want to go in the Bay Area. So those are just some of the things that are available to people. And if I can help with any of the other things about public transit, I'd be happy to do so. Thank you again.
Look, now we're going to open this up to all of you. How many of you just raise your hands, have questions, and want to ask questions? Okay.
What kind of a driving test can I take that would test me for the kind of thing I'm sort of saying?
When we do a re-examination, we're going to test you on everything. That's why you're with us for 40 minutes. We start out with you giving us your hand signals, giving us all the information of where the gadgets are in your car, your emergency brake, all of that. Then we take you out on the road. We're going to have lane changes. We're going to have right turns, left turns. We're going to take you to controlled intersections and uncontrolled intersections. And we monitor how you react in those situations. Unfortunately, uncontrolled intersections is a major failure rate because people think if I'm going straight, then I'm okay because I have the right of way. But the other cars think they're going straight and they have the right of way. So you have to slow down and look both ways before entering that intersection, and a lot of people don't. just like looking over your shoulder. You cannot depend on your mirrors. I had a man call me last week that was mad because he didn't pass. Okay, he told me he didn't have any blind spots on his car. I asked him what kind of car you have, because all cars have blind spots unless you have a convertible, but he didn't. And he said he looked in his mirrors, and how did the DMV person sitting next to him notice that he looked? Well, obviously, if you're just using your eyes, that's not going to tell you what's in your blind spot. So you have to make that look around the shoulder. And then backing up in a straight line. Those are things that we check. We also watch how some people use both feet, one for the brake and one for the gas. So we look at your feet. We do watch everything. So you wouldn't have to ask for a special drive for that. We're going to be watching you.
Oh, the question was, have I had direct experience mediating conflicts in families where there's an older driver, whose abilities have diminished some, and the adult children are very, very concerned about it. And what we find is that their communication before the mediation is pretty much sort of a butting heads, and they're really upset with each other, and sometimes they're not hardly talking with each other. So the mediation environment gives them an opportunity to speak with one another in a more respectful manner, and to get a hold of the fact that the adult children are not really trying to ruin the life of the parent, but really are concerned about the welfare of the parent as well as other people in the community. So it's a process that is amazingly powerful. I've been involved in it over 20 years, and I can't tell you how amazing that process is. I certainly recommend it, to people.
The question was how to apply for the ID card. I recommend highly that you never go to DMV without an appointment, unless you have nothing else to do that day. Don't go on a Monday or a Friday, and Wednesday we don't open till 9. So make your appointment after, maybe about an hour after we open, because otherwise you're going to be standing in line with all the people that don't have an appointment. When you go to the DMV, you're going to fill out the application just like you would for your driver's license, and you just check the box that you want the senior citizen ID card, take it to the window, they'll take your thumbprint picture, and you're done. You can renew it once you have it online, but the first time you have to go in person. Your question is, you want to request to take a drive test? Not the written test, that behind the wheel?
Just a confirmation that you're still...
And this is before your renewal. You can fill out the form that we have for a self-referral, and you send that in, and then you tell us what you would like us to evaluate, and we schedule that. And it doesn't have to be when your license is going to expire. You can do it at any time. You can call my number and I'll send you out the form.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the question was if we have limited licenses. Yes, we treat each person as an individual. If you have physical or mental conditions, vision problems, we have modifications to the driving privilege that work with that. If you have vision problems, if you have glaucoma, or you have cataracts, we can restrict your license to a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, which means every year you come in and you do a drive test to see that you can compensate for that deficit. We can restrict you to no freeway, no nighttime driving. We can restrict you to have longer rear view mirrors and additional side view mirrors. We have 50 different restrictions that we can impose. So we can modify your driving privilege to your needs as long as you're safe to do so.
You can call me the day before, and you'd have to be really lucky to find an open spot in our schedule. The longer you can give us, the more planning you can do, the more likely you will be able to get a reservation. You can make a reservation up to 5 weeks in advance. So if you have a doctor's appointment that you know that you're going to need to have transportation for, give us a call as soon as you know. In terms of how long you can be there, you can stay for as long as you need to be wherever it is you need. There'll be a driver that will pick you up and take you there, and it may be a different driver that will come back and pick you up to go back home. The driver does not stay there with you unless it's an extremely short visit. We have individuals that just want to go to the post office to mail something, or to the bank to get some money, or to Walgreens to pick up a prescription. If it's short enough, then I'll certainly have the driver stay there with you. We do not at this point have the ability to allow standing reservations, but many of our clients go to classes, and they have a schedule for 5 weeks worth of classes. They'll give me that schedule for those 5 weeks. We'll get them all scheduled, and then every week they call for the next week after that. And so they're continuously scheduled for those 5 weeks. It's a rolling 5-week period. It's not impossible for you to get a ride with very, very short notice, but it's not likely these days. We've become a very frequently used service of late. The number of rides we've given out has more than quintupled over a year ago. And unfortunately, the number of drivers we have has not increased with the same rate as with the number of rides we're giving out. But we still have plenty of time to give you rides. We've learned over time that doctors are rarely on time. They try, but they don't really achieve that goal very often. And so whenever you make a reservation and you indicate that it's going to be for a medical procedure, we'll always add at least a half an hour to the time that you feel that the meeting with your physician is going to take. If you're going to have surgery, we're one of those few organizations that the surgery centers allow to pick you up that is not family. But we must be there to pick you up, which means that since we don't have a lot of extra time in the schedule, we normally add an hour to an hour and a half past the time that the surgery center says you're going to be ready. That's because they rarely know when you're really going to be ready. We suggest that you take magazines and books to read with you, because it's unlikely that we will have a lot of extra time in the schedule. But if we're unable to pick you up and you know you're going to be late, and you call us and let us know, we will do our best to rearrange the schedule and get you picked up later and delivered back to where you need to go.
We have some really unique challenges here in Palo Alto. You have unique challenges as drivers because of the large number of bicycle riders, pedestrians, narrow streets, dark streets, lots of trees. You described the uncontrolled intersection trying to get across. So there are lots of very unique challenges here. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of streets that have high speeds, sort of here in the downtown area. The other challenge that we have, and we are seeing this all over the place right now in public safety, and that is distracted drivers. Whether it's the smartphone that you're not supposed to look at your texts or take a phone call, whether it's the improved insulation, the air conditioning, the music. One of the most dangerous things that we do here in public safety in Palo Alto is respond with our lights and sirens to calls because of the narrow streets and because of all the distracted drivers. So you as one, a driver, or two, a pedestrian, there are some unique challenges here in the community doing either. And the comment back there about almost getting hit by a car, one of the first questions that law enforcement is asking now when they get on scene of a vehicle accident is, were you on your cell phone? Were you distracted? Distracted driving is huge out there right now. So I just wanted to share that perspective as well.
The family that's here today representing their loved one is somebody who is 92, does not have Alzheimer's, and proactively stopped driving because he was worried about injuring somebody just because of being a little slow, delayed response, fragile. There's lots of other issues and reasons why to assess your driving that actually do not have anything to do with the cognitive decline, but have to do with fragility that just happens to some of us as we age, and it may happen when we're in our 70s or it may happen in our 90s, which is why this was called age is not the issue, timing is. That's really something you each have to decide. Your families, your friends give one another feedback. That's where you take ownership of this process. Your doctor may see you on a good day, the DMV may test you on a good day, but you know consistently where you're at and what your progression is. All right, thank you for your patience and sharing your stories, and thank the panelists for donating their time today. The University Cafe the day of the accident. The paramedics and our city first responders were incredible. They were there in 30 seconds and had the streets swamped off, the people out of the cafe. It was an amazing moment watching them at work. So thank you so much.
Come away with me, Lucille, in my merry Oldsmobile. Down the road of life we'll fly, automobile, you and I. To the church we'll swiftly steal, then our wedding bells will peal. You can go as far as you like with me in my merry Oldsmobile.